The courtroom was a tomb of silence, broken only by the judge's gavel as the words "sentenced to death" sliced through the air. Sarah Mills stood rigid, her hands trembling just enough to betray her fear. No one moved, no one spoke. A decorated officer, a hero to many, now branded a convict. Her fate was sealed, or so they thought. But Rex, her loyal canine partner, had other plans. Ones that would shake the very pillars of justice and light up the world with their story. A tale we're proud to share on Midnight Tailors. Sarah wasn't just any cop. She'd patrolled the meanest streets in the state, where danger lurked in every shadow. By her side, always, was Rex, a German shepherd with eyes that saw through chaos and a heart that never faltered. He wasn't just her partner. He was her family, her anchor in a world that could turn cruel in a heartbeat. They said she'd gone rogue, broke into a house without a warrant, hunted an unarmed man, and shot him dead in cold blood. The accusations hit like a storm, but the evidence? That was a mess. Body cam footage mysteriously corrupted. Key witnesses vanished into thin air. The defense scrambled, but Sarah wouldn't point fingers to save herself. She'd rather fall alone than drag others down with her. Outside the courthouse, the town was a powder keg. Half the people waved signs proclaiming her innocence, chanting her name like a prayer. The other half spat venom, demanding justice for a crime they were sure she'd committed. The jury didn't take long to decide. Guilty? The sentence was death. As the words landed, Sarah barely flinched, her face a mask of resolve. But in the back of the room, unnoticed by most, sat Rex. His ears twitched, his body tensed, as if he understood the weight of those words. Then came a sound, a low, mournful whine that cut deeper than any silence could. It was a sound that echoed in the hearts of everyone who heard it, a sound we've tried to capture in our storytelling. On midnight, that night, Sarah was taken away. No goodbyes, no explanations, just the cold clang of metal and the harsh glare of prison lights. Rex was torn from her side, leashed and hauled to a canine facility. But what no one could have guessed was that Rex wasn't done, not by a long shot. At the facility, he was a ghost of the dog he'd been. He refused food, ignored commands, even the simple ones he'd once followed without a second thought. This wasn't sadness. This was grief, raw and unyielding. Every time someone passed his kennel, he stared with eyes that burned, waiting for someone who never came. Trainers tried everything, treats, toys, even bringing in dogs he'd trained with. Nothing worked. Rex sat in the corner of his kennel, head on the cold floor, as if the world had gone quiet without Sarah. One night a handler tried to move him. Rex growled, not with aggression, but with defiance, as if saying, "I'm not leaving until she's back." The staff gave up trying to retrain him. They labeled him emotionally unstable, unfit for duty, and talked about retiring him early or rehoming him. But Rex wasn't having it. Every potential adopter was met with a growl, or cold indifference. He didn't want a new home. He wanted Sarah, an older handler, a man who'd worked with Canine South for decades, watched him with heavy eyes. "I've never seen loyalty like this," he said softly. He's waiting for her. That moment of raw devotion is the kind of story we love to dive into on Midnight Tales, where the bond between human and animal shines brightest. Earlier that week, a young handler had made a mistake, forgot to latch Rex's kennel properly. Rex hadn't moved then, but tonight, he did. Under the cover of darkness, he slipped through a door left ajar, past the main gate, and into the night. By the time the facility noticed he was gone, Rex was already miles away. Officers fanned out, searching the perimeter, but Rex wasn't lost. He was on a mission, driven by a memory etched into his canine training. The courthouse, the last place he'd seen Sarah, and the route from there to the prison where she was held. Every detail, roads, buildings, guard patterns, was locked in his mind. This wasn't an escape, this was a rescue. Inside the prison, Sarah sat in a dimly lit cell, her spirit battered. The trial was over, the appeal denied. Tomorrow her execution loomed. She stared at the concrete floor, her eyes hollow, her hope long gone. Then, a sound broke through a bark. At first, she thought she was imagining it, a cruel trick of her mind. But the barking grew louder, frantic, unmistakable. "Rex," she whispered, rising from the metal cot. Chaos erupted in the prison. Guards shouted, boots pounded down the halls. "There's a dog in the facility. How did it get in?" Before Sarah could process it, a furry blur skidded to a stop outside her cell. Rex, his coat soaked from the rain, his eyes locked on hers. He whimpered, pressing his body against the bars, as if he could will them away. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "Rex, you came," she choked out. That moment, that spark of hope, is the kind of heart-pounding drama we live for on Midnight. Guards stormed in, weapons raised, but they froze. This wasn't just a dog. This was loyalty in its purest form, a force that made even the hardest hearts pause. The warden, a man carved from years of iron discipline, arrived with 2 armed guards. His eyes flicked from Sarah to Rex, who stood protectively in front of her, growling low. The air crackled with tension. "What is this?" the warden demanded, his voice sharp but tinged with doubt. Sarah, trembling but resolute, met his gaze. "He came for me. He's never left me. He's my family. Silence stretched between them. The warden's tough facade wavered, just for a moment, as he looked at Rex. Could a dog really understand? Could he sense the truth? Rex took a step forward, standing tall, ready to challenge anyone who dared take Sarah away. The guards hesitated, their weapons lowering slightly. Something stirred in them, a question, a doubt about whether Sarah truly belonged behind those bars. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. Rex's daring rescue didn't just shake the prison, it sparked a chain reaction. Security footage of his break-in went viral, shared across platforms and dissected on channels like MidnightTales, where we marveled at his courage. The world watched a dog risk everything for his partner, and that loyalty cracked open the case. An anonymous whistleblower came forward, revealing tampered evidence and forged reports. Sarah had been framed, set up to take the fall for a crime she didn't commit. Rex, with his unwavering devotion, had sensed the truth all along. Weeks later, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Sarah stood before the judge, Rex by her side, his old canine badge gleaming around his neck. The evidence was undeniable. Now corrupted files recovered, witnesses stepping forward, the conspiracy laid bare. The judge's voice rang out. All charges dropped. Sarah Mills, you are free. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she knelt beside Rex, her hand resting on his fur. The room stood in awe, silent but for the soft click of cameras capturing the moment. The dog, once seen as a threat, had become a symbol of justice, loyalty, and hope, a story we couldn't wait to tell. On midnight, as Sarah walked out of the courthouse, a free woman, reporters swarmed her, microphones thrust forward, questions flying, but she said little. She knelt beside Rex, her voice barely above a whisper. You saved me. I'll never forget that. The crowd parted as they walked away, human and dog, unbroken by the storm they'd weathered. In the days that followed, Sarah started over in a quiet town, far from the chaos. She opened a small dog training center, focusing on troubled dogs, especially former canine, South-like Rex. She poured her heart into giving them a second chance, just as Rex had given her one. And Rex, he never left her side again, his eyes always watching, his loyalty a beacon in a world that could be so dark. Their story spread far and wide, inspiring countless others. On MidnightTales, we dove deep into every detail of the courtroom, drama, Rex's daring escape, the moment of reunion that broke hearts and mended them all at once. We shared interviews with handlers who'd known Rex, clips of the viral footage, and stories from viewers whose own pets had shown unshakable loyalty. Sarah and Rex became more than a headline. They became a testament to the bond between human and animal, a bond that could move mountains, topple lies, and bring light to the darkest corners. Years later, Sarah would sit on her porch, Rex dozing at her feet, and think back to that night in the prison. She'd remember the bark that shattered her despair, the eyes that refused to give up on her. She'd smile, knowing that no matter how the world tried to break them, they'd come through together. And as the sun set, casting golden light over the quiet town, she'd whisper to Rex, "We made it, didn't we?" His tail would thump softly, as if to say, "Always." That's the story of Sarah and Rex, a tale of loyalty that defied the odds and rewrote justice. It's the kind of story we love to tell on MidnightTales, where the impossible becomes real, and the bond between a woman and her dog becomes a legend. So, if you're moved by tales of courage and devotion, hit that subscribe button on and join us as we uncover more stories that make your heart race and your soul soar. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes don't wear capes, they wear collars.